シャドウ。その名は捨てた。私のことはジョン・スミスと。
Hello everybody, Vigo's Apprentice here, and I am here to talk about the new yellow tank unit, John Smith Cid. Now, I already like this unit as far as like it's all like his ultimate and just some other things about it too, but we're gonna really dip into like why he's like a pretty good yellow unit for especially tank. Now the first thing I like to dip into is always the stats, so pause if you want to. We're going from attack to healing boost. These are the base stats. Now we're going from healing boost to overheal. And the only grouping he has is human. Alright, now let's get into the fun part of the video that everybody's waiting here for, is the abilities. Now for his abilities, we'll check out his ult right away. And this ult is that it raises the defense of allies by 30% for 10 seconds. So that in itself is already good, but then it further grants 1 steel thread for 30 seconds. Now, the steel threads aren't really described, and you're probably wondering, well, what does the steel threads even do? So based on what the kind of like when you log into the game and it shows you that image, it says like the steel threads are able to stun the enemies. So I think it goes like this. If he gets attacked, because he's gonna have the steel threads, I believe. So if John Smith Cid gets attacked while he has a steel thread, it is going to stun the enemy, which is really good. So if that's the case, and then not only that, he recovers his own HP by 100%. And when we look at the Awakened, it is raises the defense of all allies by 50% for 10 seconds. Not bad, so that's even more defense to you. Now if we look at In Cradle, this is another raising defense move, so it's another additional 30%. Now if you pair the two, you either have 60 or 50, yeah, you either have 60% defense or, yes, because it doesn't change here. So you either have 50, or yeah, you either have 60% or 80% for the defense there, which is really good if you have it paired there. And then further grants another steel thread, so you can get 2 steel threads, one from the ultimate and one from this In Cradle move. Not only that, it inflicts provoke on all enemies for 15 seconds, which is really good because if you have steel threads and you're provoking the enemies, that means they're gonna attack, they're gonna get stunned. So that's even better. So actually, yeah, when it's awakened, you get 2 steel threads. So this would probably be one of the better moves to awaken right off the bat. But we'll check that later in his roadmap here. Now let's go to his Restraint move. So this one inflicts 100% damage on all enemies and reduces their SP boost rate by 65% for 5 seconds. That in itself is pretty good. The damage is not so favorable, but still damage is damage. But the main thing about that is the SP boost rate, which is going to be really good, I would assume, for PvP as well. Like, this is going to be a good PvP unit on top of, like, questing and events as well, because you're prolonging the boss's attack for the ultimate. So that's good in itself. And then it further lowers the defense by 20% for 10 seconds if blue elemental. So this is like a 3-in-1 move. There's no complaints here. It's really good as a tank, because you're helping your attackers out as well and debuffing the team. Yeah, you're debuffing them in 2 ways. And then if you awaken it, it is the 85 instead of 65, so 20% more, and then 10% more on the defense for blue elemental. It's gonna be really good for blue teams for sure with that move. Now if we get into his last move here, it is John Smith. Each time a debuff is inflicted, it lowers the SP rate of a random enemy by 65% for 5 seconds. Now that is really good because now he has 2 moves where they're lowering the SP boost rate of an enemy. This one may be random, but at least whatever that random enemy is, it's going to be suffering an additional 65% of the SP boost rate. It is for a short duration, but it's still noteworthy. And then I think this CT, 10 seconds, I believe it's for like a cooldown, because I think, you know, a lot of units can just whip out debuffs so quickly, so Yeah, you would have to wait 10 seconds to hit this again, because I think that would just make him absolutely busted if there was no cooldown. So I believe that's what it stands for. And then when you awaken it, it is 85. So if you had both John Smith and the Restraint awakened, it'd be 85 on top of 85. So you're looking at 170% of the SP boost rate. But yeah, his Restraint move is really, really good. So you have 2 moves that lower the SP rate, and then you have 2 moves that grant you Steel Threads that can stun enemies. And stunning enemies is technically a debuff. So the moves tie into each other very well. And on top of that, you have a lot of moves here that are like 3-in-1s. Like, it is just absolutely great. There's nothing that's really a drawback for this John Smith yellow tank. With that being said, if we're going to compare the tanks in the game, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. So here I have John Smith, the yellow tank here, but then there is this tank, the Rose, the one you get right away, or like after you do the quest line for like beginners. This one's not a good tank, so don't be dismissed, because this one's actually a really good tank. It's just that she just can't compare with just having basic, like, standard defense, and then this one's just raises own defense for 30% for 10 seconds. So John Smith does that, and then he does 2 more things on top of what Rose can already do. So it's just a no-brainer that John Smith is a way better tank unit than Rose. And she can do a stun, but that doesn't compare to the Steel Threads that can do, like, multiple stuns. Like, he has up to 3 stuns instead of just the one guarantee, one that she could do. Not only that, but Rose cannot provoke enemies as well, and John Smith can. So that's what makes John Smith more likable, is the fact that he's able to provoke. Now, if we look at the other yellow tank unit, Ida here, she can technically provoke, and what makes her really good is the shield that she could put on herself while she's provoking. So all they're doing is just hitting a shield and not actually her. But she's granting rest upon herself for 20 seconds, which is just a huge debuff. So Ida can provoke as well, but it doesn't compare to what John Smith can do. John Smith is just a multi-card of, abilities that he can use. Just all his 3-in-1 techniques for his abilities easily makes him the best yellow tank as far as the regular character pool goes. I don't know how event tanks stack up to this one, but I can tell you right now that this tank is definitely worth putting your time into. I'm not saying that, like, oh, you shouldn't put any effort into Rose or Ida. Like, you should definitely, like, if you don't have John Smith, Rose is actually a really good tank to have, so it's a good runner-up. But if we just compare John Smith to Rose doesn't hold a candle to John Smith, so this is actually a really good tank to have. Alright, one more thing before I forget. Let's go ahead and take a look at his Awakening roadmap, right? So actually, the first skill that he gets in his A1 is the one we specifically want. So getting him to A1 gives you an additional Steel Thread, which is huge. That means you can stun twice before the ult, and then you can also summon, like, you get another Steel Thread, so you get a total of 3 Steel Threads if you have him in A1, which is great. Not to mention he could probably do the In-Cradle move again, so you got more Steel Threads that way. And the Provoke. So, yeah, In-Cradle is probably the best one to have at A1, so that's a really good ability to have in A1. And then the Debuff ability for his regular, like, John Smith, is passive. So each time a debuff is inflicted, it lowers the SP rate by 85 for a random enemy. So not too bad. It'd be better to have his Restraint at the A2, but they're probably saving that to the end. Then he has Gear Slot at A3. Then at A4, that's where we get the Restraint. That's also really good. So reducing the SP by 85 for all enemies is really good. And lowering the defense by 30. And then lastly, we have his ultimate, which is the Rebuttal Threads. Not a bad choice to put him at the end there. So instead of 30% defense, it is going to be 50. So his Rebuttal Threads are at the end. So honestly, having him at like A1 is just really good just to have that additional steel thread. So him at A1 is really good in its own thing. So, and then John Smith, that ability is not bad to have. So having him at A2 or A3 for that magic gear slot is really good. So his roadmap is actually really nice to have. Yeah, so just level him up, put all the gear on him. This is going to be a staple yellow tank for your team. So this is actually a really good unit. So would I pull for him? Personally, since he's part of the regular character pool and you can get him through regular summon, like if you have the tickets. So if you still have the tickets, go ahead and wait, and then when the days left goes to 0, he'll be a part of the regular character pool and you can get him that way. So if you still have tickets, I suggest saving up so you have a chance to get him in the regular character pool. But I mean, if you really want this unit and you have gems to burn through and you don't care and it's not an issue, definitely go for it. It is the best yellow tank currently in the regular character pool. So yeah, I'd say that's worth it. Anyway, Vigo, signing off.